Hi guys, today we'll be covering a creature design and I'll be talking about this particular image I did from beginning scribbles to clean drawing to coloration and to adding textures and all that. And we will use what we learned from our previous animal drawing demo, and we'll take that and incorporate the same knowledge into this particular creature design. So let's begin. And first and foremost, I want to kind of go over a little bit about subtext. So here's I'm drawing two images of two movies, District 9 and Avatar, and I want to show you guys this relatability of subtext for these movies. Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about District 9, and I'm pulling up some older concept art to kind of show you like the process of what they were trying to do and how to get to relatability. Now, since this is film, there's a lot of emotion that you need to capture to convey certain type of emotions, and it's going to be a lot of close-up, to try to help convey those emotions. So what they did for District 9 is they want to make this creature very alien. They want to make it feel like you really don't want to touch it, but they want you to feel very sorry for it. They want to make you feel a lot of remorse that it's kind of fucked up what happened to him and to his race, but you don't necessarily want to go hug it. You don't necessarily want to go touch it. Even the color design that they choose is very aggressive, very bug-like. And the human elements only like the upper top silhouette has the most human relatability. The part that looks most human, and the biggest part that looks most human in District 9 is the eyes. They purposely make the eyes bigger and purposely design the way for the eyes to able to animate, to show expressions. That's how they made the audience feel make the audience feel sorry for these guys. And if you see the earlier designs, they didn't really convey that because it's too alien, and then you don't feel remorse, you don't feel bad anymore. So I'm showing you all these because, and I also want to show you this because it didn't like happen overnight. It's not like we need to add human element subtext in here, snap of the finger, and boom, and it's done. There was a lot of process. They took a lot of exploration. They did a lot of different concepts. They play around, and then eventually they find a great like ratio of enough human traits, subtext in there, and buggy, shrimpy subtext in there to have that good balance between relating, feeling sorry for it, but not wanting to touch it. So next we'll talk about Avatar. Avatar is the perfect movie to make you feel very relatable, and because it injects a lot of human related subtext in there. Big cats, lush forests, long supermodel like characters, and it's designed in a certain way to make you feel very welcome, even though the movie kind of describes to you that this place is a very dangerous place, but visually it's complete opposite. Visually it's like showing you everything that's like super awesome about this place, adding all these colors, having this big giant predatory like creature, and at the end of the movie you get to tame it and you get to ride it almost like He-Man in a way. So it makes you like really excited. It makes you like, oh, I could tame a big cat in this world. So it's like every visual element in this movie is very inviting. It makes you really want to be immersed and makes you really want to be part of this world. That's what James Cameron and the design team did for this movie. And if you look at the creatures, the humanistic creatures, they're basically long supermodels. It's very sexy looking. They made it look very purposely very sexy looking, slightly almost like furry like, but with the the parts that people that don't like about furries taken out, and remain the human element that what we register as, like, beautiful, um, to the modern day. So it's like this long supermodel, like, big eyes, and then, like, nice cheekbones. The design itself just makes you feel that you kind of want to be like them, and that's the whole purpose of this movie, was designed that way to make you feel that certain way. The giant space, giant flying alien is basically a giant eagle in a way, and like a giant dragon, and you get to ride it, you get to tame it. So those type of feeling that they really want to get you into that kind of set of mind, and that's why Avatar does so well. And you may think that this is a very played out, movie, and oh, like it's just basically Ferngully or Dancing with Wolves. You may think that, oh, this is just not original storytelling, but it's particularly has a really simple story for the audience to can understand throughout the whole world. So whether you're from another country, it's very easy. It's like a very basic human storytelling, of a coming of a human nature storytelling, and that's why it works so well, and that's why it works so well throughout the whole world, because it's easy to tell without even need to use English, and it could tell the story just by visuals. And what I have here is the horse. Basically, the horse image, it's not a horse, but the design makes you feel like it's a horse. The aliens ride on it, and it has a long head, even has this crest that looks almost like, the mane of a horse. Okay, even though it's six leg, it has a subtext of a horse, and that's why it works so well and makes you register like, oh, that's just the horse of this world. Okay, they may not call it a horse, and obviously does not. Obviously, it's not a horse. It has six legs. It's more reptilian. It looks more, it has a more reptilian, shiny skin. It has like these long tentacles on the head, but that is a subtext element that they added to make you feel very like this is a alien creature. But overall design shape is really making you feel that, oh, this is a horse. Totally get it. When you see it, you totally got it. This is the horse that these aliens are riding on. So right now I'm gonna bust out some old demos I did to kind of give you a idea. Since I'm from a game industry mostly, I want to show you the game design process. So this is a very dumbed down version of how you create a creatures from a game environment. There could be more than these. These are just more simplified, and this is just how I simplify it, just how I can understand it. Um, there's other ways. Feel free to use those other ways, but this is mainly just how I help me understand. And there's three things I always want to keep reminding myself is creatures don't mean anything if it doesn't service the story or the gameplay. So what that means is what we talked about for the movies, if it doesn't service the motivation of the character, and it doesn't service if it doesn't service the emotion of the character, it doesn't service the encouragement of gameplay, then there's no reason to have that creature in there. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you design these creatures, it's engaging. It's making sure it's these are not necessarily the hero in the game or in the movie, but they're mainly to help the story along, or they help the game along, or the story of the game along. So these breaking down, and the second one, adding levels of relatability to keep the players engaged. So that's part of it. To make basically, what that means for me is, I want the viewers, the audience, to be engaged enough to relate enough to the point that they forget it. So what I want to let the players see, what my creature is like. Okay, I understand this is a big creature. How do I kill it? You know, and adding a lot of this relatability, adding a lot of subtext, adding and doing your work, adding like these muscle structures inside, will allow you have your viewers look at your creatures and be engaged. So they won't look at it as like, oh, that looks funky, that looks weird, that looks off. Okay, that can't be real. Then you're throwing that immersiveness out of the viewer or the video game on the player. So adding strong enough level of relatability, subtext in there to really, to the point like it's almost not noticeable. And that way the player and the viewer can just be immersed in the movie or the game. Okay. Second, this is a quote that I always try to keep in mind and remind myself. It's all science is relatable but boring. All art is interesting but not relatable. So what that means is, you don't want to add. You don't. If you could like scribble. You could scribble a scribbly, and then you could say, "Oh, this is my interpretation of a horse," but no one's gonna get it. Because that's how fine art is. Everyone has their own interpretation, what they're looking at, and you want to inject enough science in there and relatability in there to make the audience feel a certain way and to relate a certain way. That way they can buy it, and then they'll be on board. Okay? And last of it is, ask yourself, just how much do you really want the players to be engaged with this character? How, like, is it gonna be a background character like these big ones on top, or is it gonna be a small creature that is gonna be annoying to kill, but very satisfying when you kill it? Or is it gonna be like a mid-level boss or a final boss where it's just like, oh fuck, like, how did I kill this guy? So how much do you want the players or the viewers to be engaged? Okay. So that's mainly. Take another old demo that I did, kind of show you what I did from that silhouette and fleshing it out. And the whole design of this mid boss was to kind of give it really alien-like, take out the human element, take out some of the relatability. That's why I took out the eyes, added heat pits, gave it really like a really sickly neon yellow green color. Okay, fleshy color on the mouth. Okay, to really feel like it's threatening. So as a player, when you see it, like, you go, oh shoot, I need to kill this guy. I don't want to hug it. I want to kill this guy. I won't feel sorry for it if I kill it. So it's a pretty easy way to take out the eyes. So now you don't feel as much. You feel more of a threat now. And using that heat pit, I also help kind of think about gameplay as well as visual. He has no eyes, so he can't actually see you. So you can actually hide around him, hide behind him, and he will not be able to see you. But then once you get to his heat pit, then he can see, like, infrared, and can see where you are, and he will attack you. So it's kind of like you could start thinking about gameplay and how you could use this character to interact with your player. Um, so that's basically what I was thinking about. And adding these functionalities, adding and also having this basic triangle elements in everywhere, almost everywhere. Like even the head is a little more angled, the whole body's a triangle. Um, Legs, spikes, these are all like very adding these small subtexts of triangle aggressiveness to make it feel that it's very dangerous. Um, you're not gonna go and hug it, you know, and thinking about constructions, thinking about how it actually works, thinking about how the understructure and the armature just fleshes out and helps the viewer to register and be immersed. Because when you nerd out and when you take the time and think about this, the audience will only feel it, but when you're wrong, they will they'll be taken out of the immersiveness. So when you design, is mainly form follows function. You want to think about form follows function, but when the audience look at your designs, it's form follows emotion. They just want to feel a certain way. And if you don't take that time and nerd out and think about the functionality of it, it will take out the immersiveness, and the audience will feel like this is not right. I don't know what's wrong with it, but it does not feel right. So that's a great way to add thinking about nerding out and really thinking about these understructures and adding these strong subtext in there, and really will flesh your creature out much more better, and it allows viewers and allows the game players to really get immersed and put and be involved in the game, and not call out what's wrong with the design and what's wrong with the game itself. So right now I'm just gonna do some scribblies and kind of just to get a basic idea. We're gonna use the horse as the basic subtext. We're gonna treat it like the avatar, where we're gonna use the horse shape designs, but we're gonna make it alien and skin basically for the horse. So right now, you could do like silhouette exploration. You could like just use flat silhouettes and just like do random bunch of silhouettes, and that it's a different way of working. This particular way is mainly just scribblies, and then since we already rely on the basic understructure of a horse, I don't really see the need to actually go and go actually draw like explore using the silhouette and technique. So this is me just kind of just scribbling and kind of using the basic structure that we already discussed, and I'm drawing some photo references, that the stuff that I want to have the viewer to relate to. So or in color call out. So like the pelican, I want to use the pelican for the color, and I want to use these kind of scaly, little bony textures on the actual this alien horse, and using that reptile scaly textures and implement onto this design. Okay, kind of like what the avatar horse has. And I'm gonna pull out some more refs. Only I'm gonna use this one. I'm gonna use that one. Just mainly it has a person, makes you feel like the horse is being sit on. Just gonna organize my reference here. So yeah, I'm just not only just organizing, I'm kind of also like keeping looking at it, looking at what I really want to do, kind of almost like pre-planning in a way to like really think about what my step is. And I'm not really trying to rush, I'm just trying to taking my time. A good way that I always suggest any of my students to really take your time. It's not a race. um, think about slow is smooth and smooth is fast. We're about being smooth, and not just being slow, but just being more smooth and being more direct. And then the more you're having, the more smoother you are, the more direct you are, the eventually the speed will come. Um, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to slow myself down, try to be patient, uh, and really just have fun and explore and play around. And I'm just sketching out, and I'm sketching on the head. I want to kind of like have this beak like almost like a dinosaur like head. And since I want a beak like design structure, that means usually when you have a beak design element, that means like the animals usually don't chew, or they either break apart in little pieces and they swallow it whole. So that's why I'm also adding uh, this pouch that you see under the neck right now, is just so it's um, it's like a it's like a design element that I use. So it's like if you're not gonna swallow, then you definitely have the bigger throat pouch to swallow bigger chunks of food, like an alligator, like a crocodile, or like a bearded vulture, where they swallow giant bones, and so they need to have a big throat. So right now I'm kind of thinking about the mask and the armature. I'm implementing the scapula and the front leg armature. I'm blocking the basic cylinder shape of the stomach, and I want to keep it straight against curves, so I have like more straighter on top like the horse and more curvy on the bottom. And I'm constructing elements like areas like thick and thin. I'm looking at the carpus and implementing the femur. I'm drawing the armature of the femur out. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing that we did at the horse, but we're making a make-believe creature out of it. But using the same understructure, it really helps. Draw a clear underline here. Oh, and keep in mind, I am pre-recording this, so this is sped up a little bit, just because it's like I don't want to bore you guys and taking too long with these drawings. But so this is I'm basically just structuring out. And adding the back leg and the heel. And notice like I'm jumping around the image. So I want to make sure that I'm looking at the animal as a whole, not just one section at a time. So I'm kind of bouncing on it, forcing myself to bounce back to the head, and forcing myself bouncing back and forth. So just to make sure that I'm not just focused on one area at a time. I'm mainly focusing on majority of things. And I'm really trying to sell this serpentine-like head structure right now, just to kind of make sure there's a slight different element to this. It does not just look like a horse. It has like a little more reptilian feeling that I want to incorporate. And adding the back legs. I'm basically adding the mass again, and I'm using the skeletal structure along with the mass together. Now I want this animal to have like almost like a three toe, uh, or like almost like slightly dinosaur-y legs. So because mainly I was imagining this guy will be walking in forests, big giant trees, and it needs to eat these big giant nuts from these trees. So it needs to swallow these things, break apart, swallow it whole. And these big forests has big vines, so they probably won't be able to run like a horse. They have a structure like a horse, but then the legs are not really designed like a horse. The horse leg design, it's mainly for, big open lush plains, where my creature, I'm thinking more about foresty, giant foresty, alien foresty environment. So I'm kind of using that, implementing my environment, thinking about how this animal's adapted to the environment, and also using that to help dictate my design decisions. So that can definitely be a helpful benefit to utilize that. You don't always have to use it. It's not only necessary to like constantly like be so sciencey and be so nerdy on all this, but it will help if you like are stuck with a design decisions. Start asking yourself, where is this creature living? What's his environment, and then how does it get around? And then having that subtext, it will definitely help dictate your designs, especially when I'm stuck on something. I always tend to go back and really ask these questions, like, okay, where's my animal, where's it living at, and those will definitely help me out, and really, especially when I'm stuck, mainly. So right now I'm just kind of drawing the knuckles down and making sure that it has this elegance. Even though this is just a profile and mainly just figuring out the design, I still want to portray that kind of has that elegant feeling to it. And I want to do a similar thing where the avatar creature is, where it's showing this mane like structure like a horse, and makes the audience feel that it's like a horse, but it's sort of made for a completely different purpose. For the avatar, it's mainly just a crest. I kind of want to do something else with it, so I have a crest right here, but then it's gonna eventually open up. I want to kind of open up and use it as a sound or heat to release heat, or use it to shoot sound wave to get prey, or not prey, to entice females. So I'm kind of drawing over some lines and adding some line weight, kind of figuring out where the eye should be. I don't want to make it too much like a horse. The overall silhouette should remind you of a horse, but the design itself, the understructure, should feel very alien-y and different from a horse. So right now I'm basically adding more anatomy structure. I'm adding the fleshy part. So it's kind of similar to the step-by-step of the horse in the previous demo, where I use the basic mass and the landmarks kind of like help me add extra muscle structure. Like I'm adding the abs, I'm adding a little more detailing areas to kind of indicate where I want to kind of have these folds and details to really kind of show little minute micro composition in the creature itself. So I'm like kind of feel like these things, once it opens, it could, it'll link. It needs some more space to open up, so kind of adding the extra lines on the neck. So eventually when it opens, it'll have room to spread out. just messing around the eyes, adding a little more details where I want the beats to end. And that beat might be too hooky right now, so I might change that later. I think I did change. I did change that later, and I want to make sure that these, at least this step, like I'm making sure where my knuckles exactly how is it implement into the ground, so that way it doesn't feel so like I want to make sure every problem solving is done right here before I jump into a selling pitch painting. I'm just mainly adding folds right now. Adding folds. And I mainly want to get some streamline, and I'm thinking about, hey, maybe add some secondary element, like a mini crest on the back, so it's not so plain. So I want to kind of add like a little more crest element in there, and so I'm just kind of marking everything. I'm like drawing over like a couple of times in here, just kind of like double checking my work in a way. Like I kind of like to draw over and over again to kind of have a muscle memory in a way, and where I can actually really push the lines, and where I can actually push back. I'm defining like the tendon on the side, and making sure that it's a more rounded on the bottom. It's almost like, just in this stage, it's like it's almost like writing clear notes for myself and writing repetitive notes for myself, and to help me remember. That's the main focus I'm trying to do, and we're not really like just randomly, sketching out. I'm really thinking about where I could implement what my steps gonna be, so when I eventually do my painting, it'll be much more easier. And of course, like, this is just one way. This is a more old school way of doing things, but to me, this is still fun. I kind of still feel like like problem solving through drawings to me is still more fun than painting or sculpting. So it's just like it's just the way that I like to do how I problem solve. And right now I'm using the male silhouette, and I want to make a female version just for the heck of it. Just want to make sure, like, since I'm making a male, and I want to make sure that in this environment there will be a female. Now normally you might not, if it's in a game or in a movie, probably like a good chance that you won't be able to have a chance to make a female version of a creature, just simply because of resources, how like just more manpower and money that you need to do just to design a completely different creature, and memory space. So to save all that, normally you don't get that kind of chance to design like a two separate sex of a creature, unless it's really gonna is servicing the story or servicing the game, then yeah. But if like this particular creature, if this one just mostly in the background, then it doesn't make sense to actually spend extra money to do that. So it's you also have to think about like how much budget you have to even do stuff like that. But since I'm my own art director right now, I could say I have all the budget in the world. So I kind of want to just visualize and see if I could draw a female version. And normally females are in the wild, they're more stealthier. Mainly, most of the females in animals in the wild, they are they are nurturers. They they take care of the babies, and they don't want to draw too much attention to themselves. So they usually are more stealthy. They don't have a extreme head crest. They don't really have that vibrant color, mainly because they want to hide. They want to make sure they hide from and blend from the environment. That's why most of the animals that you see on the wild, most of the females are pretty earth tony looking. They're very modest in terms of their head crest. Um, some are a little more bigger, some a little more elegant, more thinner, leaner. So that's what I'm trying to do with the female, just kind of get is just kind of show a difference, like between the two silhouette. But I don't want to change it too much because it is still the same species, and the only morph is the sexual dimorphism is one science use that to call species that are the same species but has very dramatically different features from the different sex. So right now I'm kind of just sketching out. I'm gonna add some coloration to the creature, and I'm using that pelican because I like that pelican. And it has like this kind of nice contrast. It has the yellow, it has the red, and it has a slight earth tone color that it looks really nice. So I want to use those color variations. So I'm calling the male pretty similar, and I want when I use color, I kind of want to use it in a way like how it can where my eyes gonna go. So same thing with the pelican nose, like the head itself is the area that's like the most colorful, mainly because they want to show off to like the females, like this is the area that you should focus. So that's kind of like how I'm treating it, and I'm using basically the same place, a similar placement of the pelican to incorporate it on my alien horse here. And I want to have certain areas like the pouch a little more fleshed out, more red, so it can your eyes can like draw to the head much more easier from that pouch on the bottom. I generally want to keep the body pretty simple because I want it to stand out, and since this guy's a male, so I want him to like almost like stand out as a creature, and to kind of be more showy, be a little more show off his like beautiful colors. And right now I'm just sampling back and forth. And again, normally you don't really need to treat this part that meticulously. You could do it a little more rough. Mainly, I find it when I do too rough, it's like it's like writing it very unclear notes. And so when I go back and look at it, I tend to forget what my intention was in the sketch, and I'm very forgetful that way. So I tend to make sure that when I do these kind of like just basic color call outs, or but I'm still trying to take my time, so I at least have a clear reference for myself later when I do eventually do a final painting. And I'm just coloring along, sampling away. Again, you could probably do a more flatter version of this. You could do that. And right now I'm kind of thinking about basic nature color placement. Normally you get in nature you have this like darker upper body and then a lighter. This is a good camouflage where when you're seeing an animal from far away, if the bounce light bounce you back from the ground, it's gonna have the similar values of what an animal has that has a wider stomach, and it'll blend in. So normally, and for like a crocodile, when they're swimming, anything that's below them, they'll have a better camouflage because their stomach is white, and anything that's above them, it's more masking the leaves and the foliage above the water, and that's helped them to disguise themselves in their environment. And for some animals that are like colorblind, so then if like a predator is colorblind, then all I see is values. Then it doesn't really matter what color you choose, and mainly the colors. Maybe the prey itself, like this horse creature, has able to see in color, but his predator is colorblind. So the predator won't even see the red, but they can see the red to show off to each other. So again, those are just extra, nerd out knowledge that you don't really need. But it does, for me, it does really help. I kind of want to break up. It has some visual interest in certain terms of patterning on the legs, because it just gets a little too boring. So I'm kind of doing this dark pattern, solid pattern with like a line, and I'm gonna add some white to pop it out. So it's kind of like a zebra. So I'm kind of like implementing areas like where it could be more shiny. Again, these are just like notes that I'm kind of writing for myself, basically. And make sure that I have those pattern of pops. Just coloring away. Sorry again, like I am very meticulous. Like, yeah, even with a silhouette sketch, like I have a hard time just letting it go and trying to be, and like almost like rendering at this point. Which again, you don't need to do this on that for this stage. But at the same time, I'm also trying to problem solve, try to do as much problem solving as I can here, and where areas that could pop. Like right now, I'm adding a little more dark tones to that spike, just so maybe you could like a secondary pop. Okay, so I'm kind of speeding up a little bit more right here just to kind of give you an idea, but I'm blocking a basic color on the female, like more earth tone, more stealthy, has a striped camouflage, and just to make sure this is a little bit different. I'm not gonna design the female character, but I just like to incorporate almost like a backstory in a way for this character. So yeah, I'm just looking at the different silhouettes. Now I'm playing around and with some more functionality. And again, you don't really need to do this. I'm looking over the designs and I'm thinking like that hook probably won't look as appealing once I put it in an angle. So I'm changing it up. I'm making it a little more flatter, almost like a duckbill dinosaur design. And I'm kind of, and again, I sped up this little more so then you won't get too bored. Just me nerding out on this part. But I like to add a lot of these like subtext, a lot of these functionalities just for my own, nerdiness. Just mainly because it helps me to flesh out the animal more. It helps me understand the animal more, and again, just because I nerd out doesn't mean like my audience will nerd out. But then, at least my audience will feel what this animal's about without me having to show all this to them. Okay, that's the main thing I want to. That's the main thing I'm doing this, and also because it's fun. Like I want to see like, oh, what does it look like when his neck is reached further out? When it's actually reaching for food. What is the neck actually look like? And these are very helpful in the pipeline as well, because you could the more information you have for people that's around you, that's under like your modeler, then the more of your design will transfer through. Now if you don't do as much work on that, then you're leaving the 3D model to have more of his artistic say in it, and his artistic say may be completely different from yours. But if you're not going to give him that information, you have to give him that freedom. But if you want him to stay true to your design more, then you want to give him more information. So this can also be very helpful for your 3D modeler guy to kind of show, hey, this is how his neck look when it's getting longer. This is how it's gonna look when it's curling up his head. And I'm sketching out his sound pits that I was thinking about earlier. Well, when this guy opens and shoots out a sound wave to kind of call out female creatures, and like female of his own species. So I'm thinking like once it curled up like a stallion, like showing off the neck, it will open up his mane flaps, and then it'll shoot out low frequency sound waves. So that's what I'm kind of depicting right now on the little corner on the side. Yeah. Again, like a lot of this is almost like no need most of the times, but it is very helpful for your, like, if you're gonna give it to your fellow buddy that's modeling this for you. And that's what happens, like usually when that's what the experience I have. The more you especially when you're doing outsourcing, like when outsourcing, you want to give as much information that you can. You want to give them a turnaround. You want to give them a texture call out, reference call out. How is it gonna move? Where does it animate? And because when you're dealing with outsourcing, you don't usually get one-on-one feedback directly right away. So it's very important to give them more information so they don't have to keep coming back and asking more questions. or they'll come back with a complete different design that's not even remotely close to yours. And also, again, it's just really fun for me to actually think about these type of stuff, like how does it eat, and how does it actually swallow its food, and how. So this can also be helpful for the animators eventually when they see this, and can help them, inspire them to go, okay, it swallows this, fruit whole. Just so much creature nerd out. Just ultimate nerd out, nerd out. You guys are probably watching like, what the fuck? Like, damn, like just get to the creature design. But yeah, I love to do a lot of this, like just like random sketches, like what if he could, like I want to see what he looks like. I always like to treat it almost like those. Have you guys ever seen those eyewitness encyclopedia visual books? Like it gives you so much visual aid to show you, and I always love those, and that's how I kind of use these type of things. Like kind of like I was like just questions that I ask myself, like I want to see how he actually swallows. I want to see how does he actually do this, and then I kind of want to figure that out. And then just gives you much more stronger subtext. So how that's done, now that's done, now what I have here is like I want to add extra subtext on using this ref. I have some of the previous ref, and it's mentioned that I want to incorporate some more dinosaur-y, beak-like, and on to your left side, I want to add that subtext of this creature's majestic, royally feeling. I want to give that royal feeling, and I have like the actor, what's that guy's name? The Superman guy. I forgot his name. Sorry. I found a picture of him in a night costume. Maybe from a movie that he's gonna be making. Don't know. Just found it, and it looks very royal, very stoic, very majestic. Feels very upper classy. And I found these other very stallion horses that really are like curling their neck and really giving that selling point to really showing off their presence. So I'm using that to add extra subtext. I want this to feel more royal because from the silhouette, from the scribble profile sketch, you didn't really get that. You just got a basic, almost like a stand talking. It's just not really selling the character. So that's why I have these extra subtexts added in there to kind of give more, little more human element, human relatability in there. And right now I'm sketching up using a basic triangle, and to sketch up a pose that I want that sells all that majesticness, and also using this triangle to allow the eye to focus up on the head. And so this particular shape I'm kind of like roughly sketching out, mainly just to see if I can use that to help focus on the head, and whatever smaller lines I incorporate in, I want to able to push that these focal point back down to the head, so it's like almost like creating a diamond in the middle. So you can see here I'm like drawing the arrows to kind of keeping track. And I want to add a little swoofiness on the tail, so then like a little more animation, because like this is a creature design. You're doing a selling point. You can't animate it. You don't have the luxury of making it move to sell it to your client or your director. So you want to kind of use those type of little like animation like swiftness and make it feel a little more lively to the character, just to have a selling point. And right now, I'm marking where my landmark is, so just keep in mind where eventually muscle's going to connect to. Notice I'm also blocking the basic mass. I have a basic armature in here. All of the stuff that we talked about from the previous demo, it's all implemented here. Okay, I'm just using it. I'm just altering the shape a little bit different. Okay? I'm toning that down, and I want to draw a back view. Mainly, it's always good to think about the back, and you don't always have to render it. Not all the time, because if you have a 3D model that's working really well with you, and if he's a pretty good, in my experience, usually the 3D model I work with is super badass, and they almost don't need me to draw a back view. But it's always good to help them out, because you want to help your buddies out, and if they do need the information, you have it there for them. It's better to have it than not have it, basically. So I will always draw like at least a rough back view, just so hey, tell you that, hey, this is what I'm thinking about how the back will look like. It may not exactly look like this once it's in 3D, but at least give them a set of visual aid to kind of go, okay, I can see that. How I do the back view is basically exactly the same thing. I'm using the basic tombstone cylinder box shape and using that to turn the whole shape around. So I'm thinking about the three basic shape first. That allows it to turn into a back view much more easier, and then I started adding the armature. And then after that, I got the big shape. I focus more on the smaller shape, like the neck, the head, and so on. So now I'm mainly just really focusing on, like, since I got all the problem solving done, I got the profile view sketches and the functionality sketches, and I also got these block-ins. Now all this work just makes this part much more easier. I could really focus on the head without having to worry that my proportion will be wonky. I did tweak and move around the drawing a little bit, just to push it and push the selling point of this majestic creature. I want the viewers, I want the either the player or the viewer, when they first see this, they go, oh wow, this is a majestic creature. Not like, oh shit, I need to kill it right now. Not like the old design, creature design I showed you before, where when you see it and you just like, kill it, I don't care, he's gonna kill me if I don't shoot it. This one, I want to make sure that when first off the bat, you as a viewer, you as a player in the game, see this and go, you want to feel like, oh wow, this gaudy, like majestic knight-like design. And that's what I want to incorporate here. And it's really cool to kind of see your drawing so fast. I wish I could draw that fast. Damn. Don't we all wish we could draw that fast? So right now, because I did that side drawing, indicating that shooting that sound wave. So I want to show that off, because this is basically a selling point image. You're basically using this particular image to kind of sell to the art director, like, this is what you had in mind. And so you kind of want to use whatever you can to have that selling point of this creature and character. You do that in character design when you add like pouches, or you add, certain type of clothing, jewelry on top of them. In this case, this is a wild alien horse creature. Um, I'm not gonna have the luxury to put like accessory on him, so whatever accessory is should be implemented on him already, and that's why I want to use that the main sound wave design and showcase that right off the bat. Again, I'm basically blocking in the pectoral muscles, and I'm going back in and marking where my scapula is going to be. I'm adding certain line weight, and just fleshing it out, because the underdrawing is very sketchy and also it's very robotic. We don't have the rhythm. We're not really selling much. So right now, using that, it knows how it's, even though it's sped up, it knows how it's very looks very simple. Like, I'm making my decisions much more faster. It's mainly because I did all that problem solving, so it's almost like this is just like a kind of enforcing those information, and and almost like writing a much better paragraph to show your art director, like a visual paragraph of what the character is about. Like, simple enough for him to get it, not too long for him to like get drawn out. Right now I'm indicating the foot, and I want to kind of almost like an ostrich like 3-toed, but I don't want to make it too obvious that it's like a dinosaur foot. So I want to give it like slightly different, like more like an ostrich. It has like one toe and it has like mini toes on the side. I want to pop out that pelvic bone that just pop, just so it's like a little more bonier, a little more skillier. Most of these parts are very similar to a horse, because I want this part to be very similar to a horse, because I want the viewers to be, and when they see it, the first thing they should register in their brain, in their subconscious, is a horse. So I am implementing a lot of the horse element, in certain, especially in the arm, especially in the mid part of the body. And I'm also looking at the weight, like the weight distribution. Like, that leg should be very stiff, should have very strong lines, because I want to show that it's pushing down and pushing that weight down. And I'm also keeping that one toe, because it also kind of helped register that what a horse had. Horse only has one finger. So I'm using kind of a similar way, but I'm using it like I'm putting on a different icing on top to kind of convey a different look. So right now I'm basically tweaking and try to push, see if I can push that and get more of that majestic feeling to it. Adding a tendon. Again, I'm going back and forth. When there's something that I'm having trouble, like when you saw me drawing that leg from the back and I didn't like it, and instead of fixating on it, I jump to a different area of the drawing, just so I don't get too boggled and fixate on that area. When I do that, I usually end up fucking up the drawing itself, because I'm like so fixated on that. So what I try to force myself is to make sure I jump different. When I notice like I am really struggling on that one area, then I'm gonna, let's just, you know, put that aside for now, and then let's figure something out on the other parts of the animal. And creating some more stronger lines to define the shape, because I'm want to use lines to define form right now, because I'm not using any values or any color. I want to let the line drawing to speak for itself. I always tend to like to do that, mainly just have, even though it's a line drawing, it has a certain level of finish. And I tend to have a experience where like art directors or producer will just out of nowhere pop right next to my cubicle, and then I'm like, oh crap. And what happens, like, they want to see something and say, hey, what are you doing right now? And I'm like, oh crap, oh shit. So what I tend to end up doing is, like, at least at every step, I try to have a level of kind of finish. Like, so even though this is a line drawing, I try to have a certain level of finish, so if they do pop behind my shoulders, they could at least get what I'm trying to go for when I'm drawing this. So right now I'm gonna flesh out the back of the horse. Again, adding a little more rhythm. I don't need to do too much work on this back view, because it's just kind of just extra information to help indicate what the design is going to look like in the back. So I want to give enough information, but I don't want to like go too crazy. But it still should be clear enough for people to see, to register, and have a good understanding. Okay, that's the back view of this creature. I want to get that, make sure that I get that serpentine, snake-like, dragon-like, even heron-like neck that I want to incorporate into the head. So I'm just making sure that I have like adding the appropriate lines. Make sure like my knuckles and the placement of my knuckles is similar to a horse. So like not the knuckles, the carpus, the wrist bones is similar to a horse, where it's a little bit lower than a heel. And it's all pretty easy because I already got all the problem solving done. So I'm kind of just using line to sell all that stuff that I already tried to figure it out before. So I don't really need those reference anymore, since I already got the line drawing. So I'm putting that on the side, and so now I can focus more on the actual creature and fleshing it out a little more. So I want to make sure that there's certain areas that I didn't really take that much time to flesh out, like the foot. So I'm redrawing the foot on the side right now because I want to make sure that that is being solved. I don't want to leave things hanging for my fellow buddies that's modeling this for me. Um, so I want to make sure that when I'm designing this, some areas I did it really rough, especially on the foot right now. I want to do a separate call out of the foot just so I can help explain what I was thinking, and much more in much more detailed form. So I'm kind of adding this like scaly, almost like a ostrich design structure. Same thing with the tail. I want to help explain the actual shape of the tail a little more. So I'm actually drawing a profile view of the tail right now. Again, this is just to help out, whoever it's under next to the pipeline. And keep in mind, because the reason I do a lot of stuff is because you as a concept artist, you're not really an artist. You're a problem solver for your clients. You're mainly there to solve problems for your directors and solve problems for, if you're a freelancer, you're solving problems for your clients. It's not necessarily your taste, So it's the process I'm doing a lot here. It's trying to solve as much problems as I can for my clients, so it'll make more sense for them. So yeah, that's what I'm really just indicating right now. And just keep in mind, I'm just making sure like all the problem solve is done on the line drawing. So again, it'll be easier for me to paint later, and also it'll be very helpful for whoever's gonna look at it later on. It's almost like when you're doing concept art, you're not necessarily doing pretty paintings all the time, but you want your designs and you want your drawings or you want your painting to be clear and what it's trying to convey. And usually when we do like very loose painterly, it's usually like very early on of the stage of the development of the game, just because we want to keep everything vague and we don't want to call too much attention to details. Because like CEOs, when you try to pitch it to a CEO, they'll treat it almost like, oh, that's how it's actually gonna look like, and it's not. It's just like almost like a feeling of what's it gonna look like. So most of the time when you see these concept painting that's very gesturally and very brushstrokey, it's because we purposely do that so we don't make sure don't call too much attention to itself. And then once that's approved, then we get more then we have to figure, okay, what does actually it's supposed to look like. So this is almost like that particular stage of concept design in a game company, where once you get all the gesturally paints and then people are getting pumped and getting excited about this game, and then okay, it's green lit, okay, how is this creature actually going to look like now? So that's when you actually go in and really figure things out, like what I'm doing right now, and doing some more call outs, doing a lot of these almost like note scribble drawings to kind of have a good strong foundation. So lasso tool is a very helpful tool. I'm pretty sure if you guys already are in Patreon, from John's Patreon class, this shouldn't be anything new. But yeah, lasso tool if it's not your friend, make sure become a good friend of lasso tool. It's a very helpful tool, and it helps you like really sew it out. And when you take that time to sew out your designs, and the easiest gonna be when you start painting. Lasso away. I used to hate using lasso tools, but and then but it's like I'm having so much hard time like getting nice crisp edges. Sometimes it's like, what am I doing wrong? And I really start forcing myself to use more and more lasso tool, and now I love it. Like it's so helpful. So yeah, be friends with your lasso tool. So once I got a basic silhouette down, now I could paint on top of this without even messing too much. So I'm just cleaning up the lines. The more you take your time doing this particular stage, the easier it's gonna be later. And you always want to make yourself work much more smarter and easier than frustrated, and they're just not gonna be fun. So this step, once I got the silhouette down, I kind of want to block in a basic shadow direction just so I can see how the shape is formed, because right now mostly just the lines is dictating the shape of this creature, and I eventually need to take down some of those lines so I can rely on those lines right away. And I'm kind of doing color dynamics, kind of painting a color dynamic color variations on it to give it like a rough underpainting in a way. So it's like it gives a texture. You could do pattern stamp tool. That's also very useful. I like to use that a lot as well. I picked that up from John. He does that really well, and I started doing that a lot, and I really love that. And this is just another way just to kind of get some patterning without having to use, and just a different way of doing, but then it still gives that kind of like little bit of pattern and different color variations, which it eases way of painting, at least for me. So I get a basic general underbelly that's more brighter. Now I'm just blocking that basic solid shadow shape just so I can see like how I can sell these forms without relying on my lines. It's almost like treating almost like a comic book in a way. And I have my light direction shooting from the top coming down. I'm trying to basically find a best way to help sell all the forms, and it's not really made for dramatic sense, but it's really made for just to try and sell the design and sell the shape of the creature. Like it's a basic lighting direction. So yeah, I'm not really focusing too much on making it dramatic. Look at all those shadows. So I'm keeping it very solid on the back, mainly because like I don't really need to explain too much. The main selling point is the head, and so I want to make sure that has form. And now I'm just sampling colors from my previous sketch and just putting in almost like a flat color to break up the silhouette. I kind of tone it down because I don't want to get too distracted, and mainly just to help me give me some information of how I can actually try to get as much information as possible in one image. So I'm indicating some shine. I want it to have that very solid, kind of bony-like structure, almost like the croc. And I'm flipping my image back and forth right now just to have a fresher eye on it. I'm implementing the underbelly white pattern. Again, keeping it pretty solid. Not worrying too much on like rendering just yet. Get those black little stocking patterns on. Stocking patterns on the back. Yeah, so again, these are just basically trying to block out the basic colors. Look at me go. It's so so nice when you see her. It's like, damn, I can paint so fast, but it's not true. You can't actually paint that fast. Yeah, and the only reason I'm speeding this up again, just because it'll just take like too long for you guys. So it's just for your benefit to not get too bored with this. But always remember, be patient, be slow yourself down. You know, your decision making will become more efficient and be more faster as you go on. So, like all the people that you admire from Gumroad patrons or like all these guys are like super amazing because they make the decision faster because they've been practicing. Like it takes me a lot more harder to paint, you know, a mech comparing to animals, since because I had longer experience drawing creatures and animals. It's much more easier for me because I do it much more often. So when a subject that's like I'm not clear, of course I am much more slower. So I want to add some highlights because I want to indicate, you know, not direct texture, but just like slight indication of what some of these textures are going to be. A little more smooth, a little more sleek, almost like a reptile. Just to get that classic horse element out and make it feel a little more alien-y. And I want to eventually, like, I'm just kind of indicating these lights, but I want to indicate some soft areas and hard areas, and then like, remember the muscle that we talked about, like in the first demo when we have the triangle, the tricep area, the extended muscle areas. These are areas that eventually is going to have more softer transition of light and shadows because there's muscle there. There's not that defined blocky shadows shapes. Now, because this is an alien creature, I am, you know, using that sparingly. I am kind of using in certain areas that I want to make it feel more related to a horse. But like when it gets to the pelvic bone area, I want to make sure it's really solid. I'm pushing that leg back so it makes it feel like there's depth. I'm not like the greatest painter out there, and I kind of suck at painting, so I kind of just at this stage I'm mainly just trying to how can I sell these forms, all the information that all the hard work I did with the line drawing, all the hard work I did figuring out blocking the shapes in. I want to use that and use this opportunity in the rendering stage to really help sell those information. Okay, and I want to give that clear information. So that's the main goal that I want to try to do, and not worry about trying to make a pretty painting. When I do that, usually I freak out and I can't paint anymore. You know, but if I put that on the side and I mainly just focus how do I really convey all this information that I already did in line drawing, but now in, you know, color and render. Again, line drawing, like I'm keeping the line drawing very clean, but you don't want to, like, sometimes you do, if you do it like this, the problem is that you let the line drawing dictate a lot of what you want to do. You kind of lose a lot of freedom. So it's always a good too, you know, to like get a little loose, because that way you won't fall in love with your drawing as much. That tends to happen sometimes with me when I do too clean of a drawing. Like I end up falling in love with my drawings, and I'm afraid to paint it, and afraid to paint it over. So that could be a case sometimes for you guys. That sometimes does happen to me. And what I do is I'll just like make sure that I flatten everything out, and then straight, and force myself to paint on top, and that way I won't get too invested in that line drawing. Keep in mind, this is very old school way of doing things, and I still think this is more, to me, it's much more funner because I'm solving problems while I'm painting. It's almost like model making in a way, taking very slow. But nowadays, like if this is production work, and it's much more faster if you know ZBrush and really model this out. You could like just paint straight on top of those. You don't necessarily have to do it exactly like this, but it's, to me, this is a great way to understand what you're drawing and understand what you're designing, and having that, and then adding on top of your ZBrush skills, then that, dude, you'll be fucking badass. You'll just fucking blow away like everyone. Like a great example is like Ben Morrow. He's one of the guys that I really admire, that he could actually draw, and his drawing is super badass, but he can also do really crazy awesome ZBrush, and then combine those two, like his design just fucking crazy and super awesome. I suck at ZBrush. I can't do a good ZBrush to save my life. But I only mainly use it to have reference if I'm really struggling on something. But this particular way, it's a little more old-fashioned, but it's a little more traditional, but it kind of trains your brain to solve problems with just one type of technique. And if you could do that, then adding ZBrush to your arsenal, it's gonna be much more better. Again, a lot of these stuff that you learn from this class and stuff like this, it's you want to put it in your back burner. Like, there's always going to be a chance where it's going to come and you're going to need to use it. And especially in traditional skills like this. So I'm just popping the lower jaw. I want to make sure there's mass, so I'm adding like a light to define the shape of the lower jaw and the upper jaw. I'm kind of, again, the main head is almost inspired by these photos on the side, these duck-billed dinosaurs on the side right here. Very bony, almost half reptilian-like and half bird-like. And it's a nice balance that I kind of want to incorporate to my horse, alien horse right here. So just mainly popping the eyes. I painted the pupil there, but I think I took it out eventually at the end. Mainly because I kind of convey that alienness. I don't want to, adding a more relatable eye just kind of made it more realistic instead of like a alien creature. So I kind of took it out at the end to make it feel a little less relatable. Like, I don't want it to feel too much like a believable creature. Like, I kind of want to keep a little more like just a slightly more alien-y. So at this point, like, I'm trying to make sure that I can solve as much information and problem with just painting and not using any photo texturing at all right now. Mainly because the more I could sell at this point, then it's much more easier later to put photo texture on top. I'm trying to define the eyebrows right now. Try to give that pop. And I was thinking like the head's a little too boring right now, so I want to add like a pattern element on top just to kind of have another visual interest, so the eye can focus a little more on it, like a little more detailed on the head. So as a viewer, the eye will kind of draw more closer to it. It's like you want to make the design simple to read at first off the bat, and that big, medium, and small shape, like you want the eyes to ease the way into the details. You don't just want slapping detail all over the place. That may work, but your eyes gets very fatigued very fast. So the first thing the eyes will notice is the simple shapes and the big simple shape. That's why I marked the basic triangle, okay, and we got the basic mask. Okay, so your eyes will first register those first, and then the eyes will start slowly going to the smaller shape, the micro compositions in the painting or in the design, and then it'll go into details. So you want to ease the eye way in to the focal point. You don't just want to like slap detail all over then the eyes will just get tired very, very fast, and it'll get burned out very fast. Your eyes is a muscle, so you want to make sure that you want to try and ease that way in. You don't just want to give it like a 50-pound weight, right off the bat. So this is where I took out the pupils. I added like actual nostrils just so it could make it feel a little more alien-y. And this is what I was talking about. Like, don't let the line drawing like dictate completely. Like, if you find it a good way to explore it and sell it better than the drawing itself, then just paint on top. Trying to sell the shape of the breast, the pectoral muscles. Make sure I implement the pouch. So right now I'm just I'm trying to define this weird alien sound, like a nostril type of thing, in on the creature, and I want to give it mass. Right now it looks kind of flat like this. It's like paper thin, so I want to give it some mass. So I'm adding some highlights to kind of try to define the form of this kind of shell-like protection. And usually I always try to make sure, like, whatever organic materials or like solid hard materials, that they have some kind of thickness to them. Also, because the line weight doesn't really register those type of things, so I want to make sure that when I start painting them, I want to make sure that these, like when a thick metal bends, it has a certain thickness to it. You want to make sure that that's registered into the painting, and that will help sell the believability. I'm trying to define some forms and try to pop with some shadows. I'm mainly thinking about just how I can, define these forms and where it needs pop, where it doesn't. Adding some highlights. Basically at this point, I'm kind of just like, see where it needs to, present itself. Also, I'm just like kind of noodling away, double checking, looking to see what I could polish, see what can actually be pushed. Sometimes it's I've noticed, especially when I'm working in industry, like when sometimes, like, you stop too early in a painting. So I always want to make sure that, if this is like the most
possible things I could push. Well, and sometimes that's like I maybe do go too crazy. Like you may you may go too overboard, like noodling to the point that it's like you know just not going anywhere. But at this point, I'm trying to just ask myself like, what else like I need to explain that it's not being explained from the original sketch. And also just kind of also like questioning myself like when the art director see this, is he gonna um is he gonna like understand exactly what I'm trying to portray here? So I want to at least give it a level of like render, a level of finish, um, to the point that for a non-artist will register like, oh, that's a cool alien horse, not because of like, oh, it's just a sketch of the alien horse. Right now I'm kind of adding some bounce light, some blue bounce light, some little cool, because right now it feels very warm. Everything's very warm. Very almost like it has like slight yellowy and purpley. So it's somewhat earth tony. So then like I want to kind of add a bluish bounce light. It's kind of give it a little feeling of like um little sci-fi-ness to it. Like so I'm using like a color dodge and kind of see if I could punch up some colors. And this is just an experiment. It's not like a thing, like a standard thing I do. It's just like see if I can actually pop out some more variation in color in there. And I'm also like trying to see if I could push and pop a little more of these highlights by using I think it was a liner dodge. And I might have gone a little too overboard. Um, just you want to watch out on like highlights. I tend to what happens I tend to get highlight happy sometimes, and then like my lights just kind of bouncing all over the place. So at the end, I think I fixed it. But I kind of want to put it in there. So if I could take it down, I could take it down. And also, I always double check and see if my value is alright. Because like when you tend to get, well, at least I tend to get tend to get lost when I start using colors and I start forgetting about value, and value is much more important than color. Because if you got your value right, almost like whatever color you use is okay. So, but I tend to forget my value um, when I'm painting. Once I get to color, so I always want to double check my value. Try to find areas of bounce where the light can will hit. I wanted to find that crest on the forehead, so I want to see how like where I can pop. See, and this is why I always like make sure I have like a pretty solid drawing, or have all this other stuff figured out. Because when I start noodling, I don't get lost like in the noodle. I still have the foundation there, so like no matter like me playing around and almost like pushing paint right now, it's I won't I won't get my design like I won't get my design looking all wonky because I still have that foundation underneath. So it's it's a good way to like have that those always good to have those drawings. So now like I'm at like a rendering noodling pushing paint stage and see where I could take out lines and leave some lines and see where I can like define stuff more. I'm adding some more core shadow. Add some highlights. I still want to make sure it's sleek. Sleeky. Sleeky, sleeky. I really think that pellet bone is pretty defining, so it looks very kind of. That's one part that's kind of giving a little alien look, so I was trying to find that. I want to pop out that scapula more. It was kind of lost once I started all these colors. So normally, yeah, I think normally like I won't like fidget and noodle this much. Mainly, I think I was just having way too much fun. um, so I was kind of really just taking my time on these. So okay, at this point, I'm basically trying to see if I could punch out some areas, and so I'm using the crocodile skin photo texture. I'm gonna just blend it in a little bit. I just want to give it a little bit. I don't want to get too much, so I'm putting it on the stomach area, and I'm kind of treating the area where similar to where the animal is. So then that was like kind of scale. The scale of that area was like where the body of the croc is. So then I try to put that in the stomach, and right now I want to use that kind of shine of the in that color pop from this fish here, and I want to have I'm kind of like want to have that little reddish feeling. So I'm kind of experimenting and see if I could put that in, and I'm also looking at the shape of the shadow shape, see if there's something there. So I'm kind of blending it in. Not mainly for textures, mainly just kind of like a little dash of color. Because I do want the eyes to hone in on that. I really like that color, so I want to like somehow incorporate it in. And I'm just experimenting and looking at which one works the best. Like usually it's overlay or color dodge with soft light or hard light is what I intend to do. Okay, so now I'm actually getting some photo. I want to find some thing that I can actually use, like this calf's nostril. I want to use that, and I want to use it to implement this kind of like sound hole. Sounds weird, sound hole. Whatever this thing is. Didn't sound right, sorry. But yeah, so just kind of give this thing a little more information, like define this a little more, and I'm using photo to help me get that, and incorporating the shine, try to blend it in. And just clarify a little more, because like it's still a really rough drawing, and I want to use the photo to kind of just help me define that much more easier. And I'm kind of trying to implement it and push it in. Mainly painting the sides to help me blend the photo in much more easier. And I'm gonna once I get one, I can like duplicate them and then implement it on the rest. And I'm using the wrap tool, the transform wrap tool. So that I'm just pretty much doing that to all the cavity areas. I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna stop here, and that's it. And I will probably finish up a little bit, probably go back and look at what I could actually fix and push, but that's pretty much it. I don't want to bore you guys too much of just me rendering here, but all in all, yeah, this is basically how I take my creature design from sketch, from thumbnail doodles to a cleanup sketch to a more fleshed out color render to show to my clients or to show to my art director basically. And yeah, so thank you for watching. This is basically my process. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And if you guys want like actual full version, which is ridiculously long, I could do that too. But thank you for watching.